Hello, this is Aaron Jones with your weekly news. The school committee held a public hearing along with their meeting on Wednesday, October 24th, 2012. The hearing was held to discuss the budget for the upcoming year. Here are some highlights from the meeting.
Welcome to the Shrewsbury School Committee meeting of October 24th. My name is Erin Canzano. We're here at the Oak Middle School auditorium this evening for a public hearing. First, we're going to have a couple of presentations.
So to summarize, I really believe we do have the right strategic priorities to help advance the school district and to keep it strong and make it even stronger. We have great people to implement them, but there's no question we are stretched thin for all the reasons you've heard tonight.
Can you please tell us what's the publicly stated reason that there will be no override? To Steve's point, what does it take to get a petition? What tactical things can we do? Is that feasible? And can the schools and the PTOs take an active role in voicing a petition in a political or prudent way?
Regarding the override this year in that particular decision, the board is very cognizant, obviously, of the issues, but also of the overarching economic situation that our residents face. And I don't think I have to tell everybody in this room the details about that. But in addition to the specifics that people in our community face, those people who have either lost jobs or are underemployed or just, I think, a general concern about the greater economy, as Dr. Sawyer mentioned, the concern about the fiscal cliff that potentially is coming in January. All of that general economic situation weighs heavily on us in terms of making a decision as to whether there ought to be an operational override or not. But I'd like to address, I guess I'd like to address it from a slightly different perspective. An operational override would potentially be a short-term solution to the problem.
In other news, we caught up with the Shrewsbury High School Drama and Theater Department as they prepared for Romeo and Juliet, which will be performed at the high school on November 9th and 10th.
My name is Jennifer Miccarelli-Webb. I am a drama teacher here at Oak and at the high school, and currently I'm directing the production of Romeo and Juliet here at SHS. There is quite a bit of action. So in Romeo and Juliet, it is, as we all know, it's the story of these two families, these two feuding families, and so there's a lot of sword fighting in our production. And we did have a specialist come out to teach us all of the basics and to help stage the fights that are in the show. His name is Chris Cardoni, and he works regionally in the area as a fight master and a choreographer. I think that when selecting shows, if you think, especially here at the high school where you have kids for 4 years, to give them 4 different kinds of experiences, the ones who are going to travel with me through the productions from freshman to senior year. So that idea of mixing up genres for them, I think, is really important. And to do a classical piece of theater, especially for those who would be continuing on, I think is a really great experience, not only for them, but for the community. They do study Romeo and Juliet in the curriculum here at the high school. I believe freshman year, they read Romeo and Juliet, and I think it is really great for them to see Shakespeare's meant to be performed. So to take it from the text in a classroom and to see it on stage and visualize it, I think is really important, and especially with the language. We are trying to modernize it. Modernize the show, that is. And I think the themes of love and hate and teenage, sort of that teenage mind of that their whole world is that one moment that they feel really passionate about, and everything else sort of is defined by that moment. In terms of the set and the look of the show, we have taken it from sort of Renaissance Italy to a madman sort of feel. So you have more of that 50s-esque line in costumes. Like cool. For me, from an acting standpoint, it's really about taking the impulse kernels of the emotion behind the text and bringing that out into the forefront so that the language can be accessible to all. I think building off the emotion and really playing up from my perspective, it is really that teenage perspective and getting sort of at the heart, and that's where they are. I mean, right now, it is the age range of Romeo and Juliet. And so to play up a really contemporary feel or a contemporary display of the feelings of these characters, I think is really important. Where I think when you think of Shakespeare, you think of classical Shakespeare and putting on these airs. It's really about getting down to the basic emotional level.
Okay, so I'm Zach Dorogian, and I'm playing the part as Romeo in this show. I just love being a part of shows, just taking on a new character, being a new person, getting into a different role that I normally wouldn't understand about it. I'm finally able to get into it and understand how this person's going to react, and also taking parts of my life and realizing, oh, I do actually do these things. What was part of my character? Like, you don't realize how much you're alike with your character until you actually start becoming that person.
My name is Nick Silverio. I am Mercutio in the show, and one of my favorite things about being in this show is that not only am I Mercutio, I'm also assistant director to Mrs. Webb, and that's been a really, really enlightening experience for me. I get to learn and grow as an actor, just like Zach said, but then I also get to see kind of behind the scenes and see where she's coming from when she's directing us, see where the actors' motivations are, what makes actors do what they do, and for me that's actually helped me in my role, so that's been a great experience. When we first were auditioning for the show, Mrs. Webb was right up front and said, this is going to be quote-unquote raw, which we all kind of were like, to be completely honest, we're kind of joking about it, but it's really like, it's extremely intense. All shows are extremely intense in their own different ways, so this one definitely encompasses everything. So we knew how intense it was going to be, we just didn't know exactly what it was going to entail. Yeah, and Mrs. Webb never does anything halfway. She goes the full throttle, so we knew that it was going to be pretty intense, but so it's just happened to be along with that, yeah. We had a, what would you call him? He was a stage combat specialist. Combat specialist who's really knowledgeable. His name's Chris. Come in and kind of teach us the basics about first just like holding a sword, our stance, and then learning each and every new move. And it's kind of like choreography, which is basically what it is. And he was awesome. His assistant was awesome. And we had to just keep practicing and practicing and kind of get the rhythm, because it's, like I said, it's like a choreography. It's like a dance. Yeah. And just, it's different than just having, like, if we practice with a stick, it's different because we started off with the swords. So instead of just having us do fake swords or whatnot, you really, really get into it and understand what it's like to have an actual sword in your hand and to be doing it with the sword. It just gives it some whole new, it just gives you a whole new experience in what you wouldn't think you would get.
And this has been your weekly news. Tune in next week at 7 and 10 p.m. to see more of Shrewsbury's greatest news. Thanks for watching.